Hi, Lisra, and hello to everyone. Thank you, and welcome to our weekly meeting where we meet and talk about anything to do with mental health on this channel. And so on today's video, we're going to talk about mental health in terms of, so there are so many types, there's so many reasons why people end up with mental health. And some of the reasons that I can mention today, one can be biological factors, and second one can be environmental factor. Third, it can be psychological factors. And number four, it can be anything to do with the social factors, people feeling lonely and isolated, and also the number five, having medical condition that can also lead to mental health breakdown. So in today's video, among these five factors that I just mentioned, we're going to focus much more on biological factors. So this is something genetic. For example, if in your family there is a history of mental health disorder, this is more likely to increase the chance for somebody developing similar issues, depending on how you're keeping up with your lifestyle, depending on all the other factors we've mentioned, such as environmental, psychological factors, social factors. So anyway, let's just now crack on and found much more about genetic factors, which means that if in your family there is anyone with mental health issues, that you're more likely to have mental disorder. For example, if there is someone in your family who has been suffering from anxiety, bipolar disorders, schizophrenia, or any other genetic condition. So let's speak to Listra, who can clarify some of this genetic condition that can lead to somebody having a mental health breakdown. Listra.
So first of all, I'd like to clarify that there are disorders which are genetic and disorders which are lifestyle, but seem to be genetic. People usually associate them with genetics when they're not genetic. So if you're talking about the genetic disorder, you're talking about the disorder which is on your DNA, which is imprinted, which is earmarked for you to get. Whether or not you do whatever you do, you're gonna get it. Whereas a lifestyle disorder is like there's a way of cooking in your family with a lot of salt, and therefore your mother and the father, everybody has high blood pressure. You're susceptible for getting high blood pressure too, but it is not on your DNA. So if you change your lifestyle, if you change the way that you cook, then you would not get high blood pressure. So this is the difference between genetic and lifestyle disorders. And to expand a little bit in terms of mental health, I'll have an example of a family member who had mental health problems, schizophrenia or some sort of psychotic illness. I'm not sure what it was, but it appears to be schizophrenia from the signs and symptoms. Okay, so he must have gotten that from his descendants, like his grandfather on his mother's side. So it was in his DNA and probably the environmental factors and all these other factors must have contributed to him getting it as well. So he got the disorder, and he recently wasn't more down on the road, knocked down and left to die. It was a hit and run, simply because although I don't know what the circumstances were, I know that he was walking naked on the street and he was knocked over and left to die on the side of the road with no clothes on or anything. So somebody must have seen him walking naked, not stigmatized him as a crazy person, and therefore they left him to die, which is unfortunate because these people are members of society. They are people's father. He had 3 children. They are people's sons. They are people's mothers, grandmothers, irrespective of who they are. We shouldn't stigmatize them because mental illness is not something to be stigmatize people about. It's something which we need to empathize with people and support them, because a lot of people, is with 1 in 8 persons globally who suffer with some form of mental illness. So it means that if 8 of us standing up on the side, at least one of us suffer with mental illness, which is quite a lot considering the amount of people on this earth. And that means that any of us can come down with a mental illness, and therefore we're supposed to be empathetic to other people and not stigmatize them and call them crazy people and all sort of things and treat them like rubbish.
Yeah, I work in mental health. I work with people with the mental health issues, and I think one of the best things that we do is just putting ourselves in a situation of these people and trying to understand where they are coming from and how they may be feeling like. However, some of the main issues that we've realized from most of our patients that we do get are once they start becoming better, when they tell you their story, you can see that there is a link. I know that we just mentioned that it can be a genetic factors to have a mental health issues. And I think in some people, normally for someone to start developing a mental health issues, it starts from childhood. It starts from when they're starting picking up teenager age. Now, because by that time, they are now starting to understand the world around them, what does it mean to be a child, and they start recognizing that very soon they will be adults, and also realizing the other environmental factors around them and social factors as well. So all those things do play in this a person maybe who is still on a young age, because most of, for example, most of our patients, they started developing a mental health problem when they're from at the age of 12 or 13, 14 and onwards. And when they are talking about it, you realize that, sorry, that although in a family that there is a link, maybe a mother or a father has maybe he's suffering from depression or anxiety, or maybe the mother has got bipolar disorders or something like that. But then is from that age where these children start becoming cautious about what's happening. Why is my mother like this? Why is my father like this? Why is my mother constantly having this anxiety? And so we don't realize how you are feeling, it gets to your child, even to a newborn. Your newborn will feel that you are a happy mother or you are an angry mother. That's through the way you communicate to your child. I know babies don't talk and they cannot communicate with you, but I can assure you that they can sense every single feelings of adult who is around them. They can easily know that this person is my mother and this is not my mother. You've seen it already when you have a newborn and you're giving to someone stranger to hold a little bit, the baby will look and realize this is not my mother. So that is something tells you that our brain starts having or developing how we're going to feel in the future from just an early age. And then everything starts by then. However, in some cases, there are few things that you can change, regardless either your mother is suffering from depression or anxiety. Mostly these things are people are having anxiety or depression because of they are living their lifestyle they don't want to live, or maybe they are doing their jobs they don't want to do, or maybe they are living with the partners who don't love them, or maybe they're just wondering am I going to pay my bills? How is my future looks like? I don't have no career. I don't have no good job. So all those kind of things, contribute on how somebody feels. So, and affect a child who is growing. You are seeing your mother having suffering from this depression, or your father suffering from all this. And you pick up from there, and you realize that when you're an adult, you are unable to cope with this kind of things. And you're like, oh, my mother used to, to have this, used to suffer from depression, or my mother used to have anxiety. And you realize the way we speak about things, the more we are attaching ourselves to those things unknowingly. So, and it is very crucial to manage on how we see things the more we grow. For example, if you're out there, you've got children, I think the only thing I can say that is try to help your children to think much more positive about life. Don't try to influence your children having the same negativity you have, because they will pick it up. They are definitely going to pick it up. So yeah, so there are so many things really in terms of biological factors. There are so many things that as adults we can change about how we see things, but again, it will depend on people around you, where you live, your sociological factors, income, and all those kind of things contribute on how people feel. And however, I don't know, Risra, if you can agree with me. For example, I grew up in a very happy family. My mother and my dad, as a child, I used to think like they were very happy, because I used to see them laugh, do things together. When it's weekend, they will go to church together. And that was before I became cautious about what was actually happening. And I came to realize that my mother actually had a very bad depression, and which back home, like it's people don't realize that it's a mental health issue. They don't even seek help. That they don't seek help. They don't see it as a medical as is something that needs to be treated. So my mother lived with depression all years, and I think she developed something to do with migraine. I think she was thinking a lot, and she ended up getting cancer at the end. And we don't realize that the longer we have this kind of depression, anxiety, the longer we have it, it changes the chemicals of our genetic. It changes the chemicals of how our body function, and it can easily develop into something different. So my mother ended up with cancer, and she died with that. So me thinking about when I started becoming a little bit more cautious about what she was going through as a mother, and me now thinking about, okay, this is what I've seen, about how can I avoid it not to get to me. I think that's where most of us stuck, because you feel like your mother or your father went through this, and you feel like it should be your portion as well. I don't know what you think about that.
I agree with you, because some, as I mentioned before, that's the reason why I started off saying about the difference in genetic and lifestyle, because sometimes cancer and these things are associated with genetics, but they're not genetics. They are lifestyle. So basically, if you depending on the life you live, if you live with a lot of stress, then it does change your biological setup, and it brings on these disorders. Also, the things that we eat, there are a lot of issues that causes these things, and which we can avoid. It doesn't mean because our parents suffer with something that we have to suffer with it, unless it's genuinely genetic. And genetic, it means that you have to go through genetic testing to see if it's on your DNA, because most of the things are not. Because if cancer was genetic, it would be even more rampant today. But it doesn't mean that you have to have it. Depression and anxiety, these, unless it's clinical depression, which I think is DNA, the genetic form, then what we have to do, is it nature or nurture? That's the question that everything boils down to. Is it genetic or is it learned? Did we learn that if we how to cope with these challenges in our lives, we have to be depressed, or we have to get anxious because we saw our parents becoming anxious? So it's a learned way. Coping with trauma, did we learn, or is it a part of our bodies to cope with that way? So if we look deep into it, we'll realize that it's most of it are learned. And as you said, from inside, even not just a baby, from inside the womb, we learned different things. Because if your mother is a depressed person, that's a way of coping. So the baby will get that communication coming through the umbilical cord. That's the way to cope. So when the baby is born, that's the way the baby will cope with challenges. Unless you change your mindset, you become conscious and change your mindset deliberately, and you change the way you deal with situations, then I'm afraid that the way we learned, that is what will stay with us. And it includes a lot of mental health, a lot of mental issues.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. For me realizing how the mental health can be, and how you can actually change everything around you. I trying to, for those who have got young children, I trying to raise my children as they are so individual. They are so individual, and they are so creative. So which means that they need to have their own mind. I raise them to have their own mind of thinking and making decision, and trying to emphasize that if I'm doing something today, it doesn't mean that they need to do it in the future, because there is always something that you're going to learn in the future. There's something you're going to learn something is gonna come up. So you're gonna have to be that independent enough to make that decision of how you want to lead your life. And I think that is the most crucial part of it, because you want to make sure that your children are able to make this kind of decision. I don't know. I think all of us become conscious at different level if we want to, because I can assure you that, for example, the way I grow up and see my mother cook, we normally know that adults, they're a good role model for us. But again, at the same time, yourself, you are growing up into adult too. So you're gonna have to really understand that you're going to be a good role model to somebody else. Because I know like things I used to eat when I was young, or the way my mother used to cook when I was young. So when I was growing up, I was like, oh, I can't wait to actually have my own home and be cooking this. Yeah. But it's so surprising that when I grow up, I don't cook what my mother used to cook. You understand? But there are some people who will definitely carry that culture and keep going with it. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it if you realize, you know, that lifestyle is not going to affect your lifestyle. You can carry on with it. But if you are really aware that that lifestyle is going to affect on how you're going to be like in a future, I think it's a good idea that you realize that these things actually you need to change them, and then you adopt your own way. Mm-hmm. Again, what can I say? Family are our roots. We come from our family, our mothers, our grandpa. Without them, we are not gonna be here. And they have been there for us, before us. We appreciate, we adore them, we love them, and we are feeling so grateful that they have laid those grounds for us. But then just trying to pick up your own self and do what is the best for you. Do something that you're not trying to accept because these things come from your family. Now you're just preparing your mind to have it because your previous family had it. I think this involves a little bit of loving yourself, and also giving yourself that self-love, and taking much more time to think about yourself, what is the best for you, and what do you want for yourself, what do you want for your family, and so on and so on. You know what, talking about mental health, you can just keep talking and talking, but in today's topic, it has been, we spoke about genetic. I don't know if, Lisa, you have anything to close with our topic today?
Well, I don't have anything to add or take away from it, except that just subscribe to the channel. Remember to subscribe if you want to see more videos. Like, comment if you agree or disagree. Feel free to comment, and press the notification bell for more videos.
Thank you so much for all our audience, and we'll see you again in 1 week time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone.